Forgot to put the intro on, haven't you?
Exactly, yeah. Said that when we finished yesterday as well. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hearts Standard. My name is Craig Cairns. I'm joined by the editor of Hearts Standard, Joe Sked. How are you doing today, Joe? Feeling any better?
Yes, slightly better than the last time I spoke to you. So no, it's looking forward to getting home and breathing some fresh air when I step off the plane in Edinburgh. But it's been a fantastic. It's been a fantastic, very enjoyable.
Some non-humid air, please. We're going to talk about the game you were at last night, where Hearts, I suppose, officially kicked off their pre-season, because I think the one they played earlier in the week didn't get any reporting on the website or anything really. There's another one coming up before the Dunfermline game, which I think is going to get the same treatment. But this one felt like more of an official pre-season. Hearts won 3-1. We'll get to that. But just before we do, we'll just say that Hearts Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to S1 Jobs and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. So, Joe, we are going to talk about the 3-1 win over Crawley Town in pre-season. It was an own goal, a volley from Alan Forrest, and a second half goal from James Wilson. They're similar to the game against St Mirren. There was a lineup for the first half and a lineup for the second half, which we'll take in turn, like we did. I suppose the first thing before we kind of get into that, the first question I have the first question I had was that the first game, the first half was a different shape to the second half. For this one, we saw the same shape throughout the match, unless it changed when the two substitutes came on in the second half. But that, to me, suggests that that's probably more like what the formation is going to be going into the League Cup matches. I don't know if you shared the same view.
Yeah, I think it's certainly pointing to that. I do think that we will see 3-5 back three at times this season, just because of if you actually look at if you look at the squad and analyse the squad, and if you pick out one area of the pitch where Hearts are the strongest, I think it's at centre back. Whereas Stein, we'll hopefully hear more about Jamie McCart's injury. He had a scan yesterday, and I think they're hoping to get the results today. But if you look at the squad and the centre backs, so you just include McCart, Kingsley, Finlay, Kent, Steinvender, Halkett, like six really good options. Six options that I would be happy to have as centre back options. So I do think that Halkett in between Steinvender and Finlay is a really good trio. There's a really nice balance there, and there will be points where that probably will be used. There'll be certain games or where it probably is a bit more effective, but I don't think it'll be the kind of the main formation, the starting formation. But it's good to have that flexibility and versatility. I do think with the two new players coming in, if those get over the line in the next week, as is hoped, maybe even sooner than that, then it does provide more options for McInnes to play with the two wingers which he wants to play. So that's that. I think that was partly one of the reasons for kind of the back three as well. But I think we'll see mainly 4-4-2/4-2-3-1, but with the ability to go with a back three. I mean, I am a big advocate of the back three at times, especially when, as I said, we've got a nice trio of Steinvender, who's might have done really well during pre-season, Halkett and Finlay.
Let's look at the first half lineup to kick things off. Oh, again, I need to remove this media asset. So Ryan Fulton was in goals. It was a back four of Adam Forrester, Michael Steinvender, Craig Halkett, who was captain, and Harry Milne, starting in the absence of James Penrice. From right to left in midfield, it was Alan Forrest, Oisin McEntee, Benny Beningame, and Alexandros Kiridis. And then up front, Cladio Brager and Elton Kabangu. Who kind of stood out from this first half lineup, Joe?
So when I wrote the report yesterday, I talked about Braga being the best player in the Hearts top. But actually, the more I digested the game, I actually think it's McEntee who's the best player, and we'll have stuff going out over the next couple of days just in terms of speaking of him, but also some comments from McInnes. But I just think he is going to be a player that Hearts fans really, really like, and get someone who they will quickly appreciate in the midfield. I think he just changes the dynamic of the midfield massively compared to what we've had in the past few years. He is someone who is, firstly, he's a big presence. You notice that straight away. He will get a wrote about this, but he'll get in the road. And this, the good thing is that he picks up on loose balls. He reads the game really well. He's got that defensive quality, having been played in defence, but he wants to play forward, and that's something we really noticed against Crawley. He was wanting to drive forward with the ball. He was wanting to support the attack. The first goal, he was kind of key in pressing and put like in the final third and putting pressure on the Crawley defence. And I really liked how he came across him. He was combining really well with Forrester and Forrest with kind of in tight spaces. He would take the ball, and he's, for a big guy, he's quite quick as well. And I do think that people might see him and just go, "Oh, yeah, he's just a big defensive midfielder." He's going to be much more than that, and I do think he'll provide a wee bit of an alternative goal threat, should you say, with his willingness to get forward and runs from midfield. So yeah, really like what I've seen from him. Cladio Brager he came off the bench, so he came on the second half last time, or then the change at half time, and he looked really lively, quite fiery, and he was excellent again, excellent this time against Crawley. He got wiped out big time early on just because he took the ball in and he shifted it away from two Crawley players who emerged on him, centre back, absolutely clattered him. He did that so many times where he would get the ball in, he would hold it so well, he would use his body so well, and he's having a touch, having awareness, really, really helped him. And there were some really nice kind of flex plays around the corner. He looks like he'll be a really valuable member of the first team squad. I don't think he'll be necessarily like you're out and out goal scorer like hope Shankland is, but he'll score, he'll assist, and I think he's the type of guy who will probably help make other players better around him. He'll probably be a really selfless player for Hearts in the final third. So yeah, those were the two of the new boys that stood out, and then I suppose a shout out for Adam Forrester, who had a really solid, sharp game where he was positive in everything he did. He looked like he was playing with real confidence. His passing was really sharp, and he was playing forward, and he was really aggressive. And I think that's what McInnes will like in his defenders, in that he wouldn't stand off the winger. If the ball was there to be won, he would go and try and win it. And I think he basically won every time he went and tried to get the ball. So I think he can be really happy, having not played in the first game. I think he can be really happy with his 45 minutes.
Right, Frater, he's saying, "Hi lads, thanks for the pre-season coverage, keeping us all going without Hearts playing weekly. Top job." I mean, most of that thanks has to go to Joe, but thank you very much, Ryan. Scott Foley says, "Morning chats, missed the start. Did you both get here on time and trouble-free today?" Yes, we did. We started on time and everything. And then to bring it back on topic, something you were talking about there, the Gorgie Boys podcast says, "Morning guys, hope you're well. Everyone loves attacking players, but I think McEntee is someone who will fly under the radar and could end up being the pick of the signings." You were giving him some praise there, Joel. I was saying on the last one that I thought the starting midfield, although it seems like there's going to be some competition in there, but I think the starting midfield's probably going to be McEntee and one other, partly because of his size. But would you go as far as the Gorgie Boys podcast there and say could possibly be the pick of the signings?
I think he will be. I would rephrase it and go, I think he would be the under the radar signing. Okay. In that, when you look at him and when he was signed, he's quite an unfashionable signing, and people were like obviously looking league. Was he playing? Was it League Two with Walsall or League One with Walsall? I think it was League Two, and they got to the playoff final. Anyway, he was playing in the lower leagues of English football, and you're kind of looking is he the player you want to Hearts be looking to bring in? But yeah, so I do think he'll be one who. I'll rephrase it, a surprise signing of the season.
You've interviewed him, so you'll be able to answer this better. But one of the things I took away from the little I've seen so far of Braga and of McEntee, they both have personality. They both have a lot of personality. I don't know if that translates to how they play their game, but it seemed to me like there'd be two guys that would fit well into the squad.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's really stood out from just being around the training base for like being up 3 days and then just chat to players, was how, and just viewing things, how everyone's fit in really well. There doesn't seem to be like any issues. A big thing, a real big help is all the new signings. Obviously, McEntee is an English speaker, but Borchgrevink, Braga, and Kiridis, their English is good, or sometimes excellent. So it makes it easy, that adaptation period easy. Speaking of Braga, yes, loads of personality, really, really personable guy, really nice guy, and he's like someone you just think, yeah, I really want you to do well, and I think that translates within the squad, and that's something I noticed was he's despite being a new signing, he was very vocal on the pitch as well, and he was keen to communicate, keen to chat, and help other players around or have conversations with other players. So yeah, they definitely, and it goes back to something that Hearts and Graham Jones spoke about when he went to USG, was the personality of the players, or the character of the players. Like a lot of work, all teams do a lot of work to make sure they get the right people, but it definitely seems like who they've added have fit into that good personality / character.
Let's go on to the second half, and I'll try to not remove you while you're mid-sentence this time. This is the team that started the second half. Again, it was 4-4-2. Xander Clark. I mean, I think it's just going to be, when we come to the end, I'll maybe give a quick who I think is going to start the first game of the season. I don't know if you want to play that game as well, Joel, against Dunfermline, but I found these team selections quite interesting. Anyway, Xander Clark in goals, Christian Borchgrevink, Ryan Kent, Stuart Findlay, and
Frankie Kent.
Oh my God. I've put Ryan Kent on the graphic.
Yeah, I know.
My word.
I've done that before.
Oh God, right. Usually the last ones I sent to you to check, and I didn't with this one. We're kind of a wee bit tight for time, and Jesus, that's embarrassing. Right. Anyway, that's the back four. Ryan Kent was not captain. It was, in fact, Frankie Kent who was captain. The midfield two was Cammy Devlin and Callum Nieuwenhof. The wingers, or more inside forwards or playmakers, were Blair Spittle and Sander Khartoum, and up front were Musa Drame and James Wilson. I'll bring in a couple of comments before you someone's saying here, what about Kent? He was our best centre-back last season. I think, as we've discussed, there are lots of options in the centre. You could probably pick a few different pairings and they'd all be perfectly good for the season coming.
Yeah, Kent was very much should have caveated it with, you could put Frankie Kent into the right centre back position. When I was talking about the back three, you could put Frankie Kent in the middle of it, you could put on the right side. Again, he is someone there, if he's starting the season, you're like, yes, you know what we're going to get from him. Very good centre back. But again, it's just like so much choice and so much depth and so much good choice and depth.
Sort of going back on McEntee, but moving on to the second half. I'm not sure what that username is. Caboodlefish. He is saying, I presume it's a he, sounds like a good upgrade on Devlin, but you wrote in your instant analysis that Devlin was very good in the second half and was getting praise from the opposition bench or something. Did you say?
Yeah. So where we were sitting, there was I think it was a Crawley Town sporting director was sitting there, and he was asking us about Devlin. Like he's just kind of impressed him, and he was really good. I wouldn't say an upgrade on Devlin. I would say a different profile to Devlin, and I do think, going back to what you said, when it's Dunfermline, when it comes to Dunfermline, it'll be McEntee and either Devlin or Benny Beningame, I think.
And slightly going back to the defence, Lewis Lennox says McKinnon seems to like a tall, fast defender. Could we see the shorter players being left out of the lineups? If you're talking exclusively about the centre-backs there. I'd like to know, other than Stephen Kingsley, who's sort of more of a left-back now, as we've discussed, who actually is the shortest? Because they're all massive.
I don't like even the fullbacks. If you play Kingsley as a fullback, he's a big fullback. Kingsley's 6'1", 6'2", and
Milne's
Harry Milne's
as well.
Harry Milne's a big fullback as well.
Forrester.
Grevink is probably like 6 foot as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't think they can leave any short players out because there's no short players.
Yeah, exactly.
Short players further up the pitch, but defensively, there's going to be good size. And again, that's something that we've banged on about, the need to have bigger players because it's Scottish football. You need to have you have to play with the culture is there, and bigger players is big thing. Thumbs up for me.
Anybody else from this that stood out?
I suppose probably the most interesting aspect, or maybe not interesting, aspect was, so James Wilson was excellent again. I think he's had a really good couple of weeks since coming back from a very short break. And I seen someone replied, I forgot to get back to him on social media last night, where he was just talking about the squad and thinking, it's like, oh, dude, Wilson should go out on loan. Wilson should absolutely 100% not go out on loan. I think he's going to be a really important and key player for the team going forward. I know Dennis McInnes rates him very, very highly, so he was, I think, got his reward for all the work with his goal. And it was, so Shankland came on for Khartoum. Like, Khartoum and Neuenhof were taken off, so they only got bits of the second half. Like, could kind of read into that what you will. But Khartoum came off, Shankland went up front, and Musa went out to the right wing. And I think kind of worked. It gave Hearts a bit more width and pace on the wide areas, because you look at Spittle and Khartoum, two of the slower players in. But yeah, Spittle was pretty good, and Shankland came on and had just got minutes, was important, but did his usual, dropping in, linking play, doing it really crisply, smartly. And I think you could hear the way the players were talking, how much they appreciate what Shankland gives them, when, especially defenders, because he gives them an option all the time. So yeah, that was there was definitely positives to be had on both halves.
Let's go. I'll take this away, and then we can go back to the comments for a wee bit. James Govan is asking, this is one for you, clearly, after seeing the new signings up close, are you feeling confident for the season? What are you feeling about that, Joe?
Yes, I'm feeling more confident. It was more like coming into, as I've spoken about, I thought McInnes, appointing McInnes was brilliant, and I think he was the right manager for the job, and therefore I was confident about the season ahead. And then we're still apprehensive because of still a big squad, and then you need to see the new players and how they fit in. But I have to temper it by saying that it's just two friendlies where there was a lot of changes, and it started early in the pre-season, I should say. But I definitely feel a lot more positive. I was positive about the season anyway, but feeling even more positive about the season after this past week.
You can give an update on this as well. I think it's something that you wrote about as well. Craig McInnes is asking about Kabor. He is saying that he's more excited about him than any other signing. How close is he to signing? And if he does, can he also play the big target man role? This is a guy that seems to be creating quite a bit of buzz, isn't he?
And understandably so. I just do think because his goal scoring record in Estonia is incredible this season, and I think we mentioned it on the last podcast, Promise David as well. Like the Union Saint-Gilloise had that real success from getting him from the Estonian league, and she's done really well for them. So I understand why there's a lot of excitement about him. I would, again, both. The hope is, I'm always apprehensive with transfers because they're never straightforward. Things can happen, and yes. I'm off the view that until they've been signed and the scarf's above their head, then anything can trip them up. But I do think that there's expectation and hope that both deals get done over the next few days, certainly within the next week, all going well, and I think they're progressing quite well. So yeah, hopefully he'll be your Hearts player. And in terms of the big target man role, I'm not sure he'll be the target man. I think he'll provide a bit more versatility to the attack. He can play wide and through the middle. I think he's more of a pacey, like another pacey option in attack, but who could play could allow Hearts to go with different formations in attack and play as a forward, but like a wide forward, or play as part of a front two. So he will definitely add to the squad, to add more goal threat. Again, we're signing players who like Kiridis, Braga, Kabor, Kajota, Chesnikov, all guys who have scored 10 plus goals in their like current or previous seasons. So it's just adding different mixes, but I wouldn't say he is kind of out and out target man.
Scott Foley says that he saw in a group chat that Musa is wanted by Cadiz. Anything in that? I believe there might have been some interest in Musa, but I think regardless, I think it's going to be an interesting few weeks for him, because I think he showed correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he showed last night that he's got something that he can offer. Hearts aren't blessed with wide options with pace, and I don't think anybody really knows what Musa's position is. I think he's better through the middle than he is out wide, but I think at least there's times out wide where he has proven that he can get down the outside and he can show a bit of pace. It's maybe his decision making and his final ball that kind of that lets him down, but he could be a player that McInnes wants to use at least until there's better options.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any. I don't know of any concrete interest in him, so I can't really say much more than that or answer that. I don't know if about Cadiz. I know I've seen the links. I've seen it being linked in Spanish press. He is still quite raw. I think he's done well. This again, he's another one that's kind of shown up well in the last week or so. I would, with the new players coming in, he'll go down the pecking order. So he is someone that I would imagine would potentially be moved on. I wouldn't be against him going out on loan and just kind of rather
somewhere in Scotland.
Potentially, someone in Scotland would be useful, but just going out on loan and just keeping an eye on him, see how he develops for a year, without like kind of cutting ties altogether. But let's be realistic. It's hard to see where he fits in with the new guys coming in.
He's also, if I'm not mistaken, 24, and I thought he was a wee bit older than we. Because the point I was going to make is he kind of gets treated a bit younger than he actually is.
Yeah, 23.
23, okay.
Yeah.
But he still kind of gets treated and talked about as if he's like a Wilson coming through up from the B team or something like that. I feel like he's a really interesting case. He's a wild card and a chaos factor and all these things that we say. And he can finish. He can score a goal. You saw against that game against Celtic at Tynecastle. He can score a goal. There's too many players. And as Gorgie Boy's podcast says here, how big a squad do you think McInnes will want to work with? Would be about 24. He thinks going to be interesting to see who will be going out. The fact is, there are going to be players who leave, who go out the door and fall down the pecking order because there's just far too many players. And Musa is one of those candidates.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's been quite a few comments about, like Cameron says, are we going to see the squad being trimmed down soon? Yeah, I think we'll see over the next, what are we at, the 5th of July? So the next 3 weeks, I would see players starting to move on, especially there'll be a big, the squad that faces Dunfermline Athletic will be very, very interesting, because I think you'd be able to read into the future of some players when that squad gets announced. So I do think, and someone else asked about, David Fettis asked, do you think McInnes already knows his preferred starting 11 for a League Cup next Saturday? I would imagine so. I'd imagine he'd at least know his maybe like 14, 15 players
Mm-hmm.
that he'll be kind of looking at for the kind of starting berth. But yeah, I think the last couple of weeks allowed him to. I think he already had a idea of who he wanted to and who maybe wouldn't be fully part of his plans. But the last couple of weeks have given him probably a better idea, and we'll get an even better idea when the team for the Fairley game's announced.
I was going to say we should run through our who we think is going to start, but we're a wee bit tight for time, and we can maybe make that a video in the coming week or something like that. So just a couple of comments to finish before we get out of here. Any update on how long McCart is likely to be out for? Darren Weddell asks. I don't know if that was a question that was asked last night, Joe.
Yeah, so I mean that McInnes mentioned it on. I think he mentioned the Hearts TV interview the other day. But basically, he's going. They're hoping to get the results today. So I honestly I don't know how long he's going to be. So I'll hopefully try and find that at the start of the week. But he was on crutches and had a moon boot. So yeah, fingers crossed. It's not anything serious. But you're always worried when you see a player on crutches and a moon boot. And again, McInnes, I think McInnes was looking forward to working with him.
Again, sticking with the defence, do you see any centre backs going, and who do you reckon it'll be? Yes, and I've no idea. I don't know if you're any further forward of that, Joe. I felt like going into the pre-season or going into the end of last season, I did worry about Halkett, and not for ability, but for availability. And then beyond that, I'm really not sure. Steinvender's still in the door, and I think Steinvender showed last season that with a pre-season, he could potentially be like a star for Hearts. I mean, I think he's got a long way to go to do that, and I think you saw some of his potential weaknesses as well before he dropped out the team, but I think that could have been to do with the time he joined the squad, given it was the off season when he joined and he was kind of fast tracked into the first team. But beyond that, I really don't know, because I probably would say Findlay and then Halkett or Kent next. It's now what I've seen in pre-season. I would say Halkett or Kent next to Findlay. Honestly, could not tell you who between the two of them.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's coming into the summer. You're thinking maybe 2-3 will go. I was expecting 2 or 3 to go. I would imagine Lewis Nielsen will be moved on. He didn't feature in either 2 games, so I would expect him to leave. But you look at the situation with James Penrice going. That's left. Don't think Hearts are. Left back's a massive priority at the moment. I think Harry Milne will get an opportunity, and then you've got Stephen Kingsley as an option as backup left back and centre back. And then if you add in, just say hypothetically, McCart has a really bad injury and is missing certainly a few months, then I actually think you are going to see most of them stay, because then you have 4 centre backs in Steinvender, Kent, Halkett, and Finlay, and then you have Kingsley and Milne as your left back options. So we could see everyone stay, but again, it will depend on McCart's injury and kind of depend on, I think, the League Cup group stage and potential interest as well, because that's something that should be said, is that all, as we said numerous times, vast majority, all players are on the table as well. So if people show interest and meet the club's valuation.
Exactly. Right, I think we'll wrap it up there. Because, if nothing else, we are denying James Govan's Wee Man Sesame Street, so we better go so his son can watch that instead. Thank you very much, Joe, for your efforts this week and for tuning in from Spain all week. I think we've done a daily video pretty much, haven't we? Other than Wednesday, I think we've been on every day. But yes, looking forward to having you back. We will be back at some point next week, and thanks everybody for tuning in. Please check everything out at heartstandard.co.uk. I've linked a couple of the articles in the description, and we will see you all soon.